Really?
I'm on the phone.
Gosh.
It's gonna be a while.
Hey, welcome to another episode of What's in the Attic. This will be episode 3. Well, today we're going to talk about old phone technology. Found this in the attic. My buddy here has. As you saw in the opening. Who remembers this thing? The old push button from the 80s. Hanging on the wall. You had to play limbo. Go in and out. People be on the phone for hours. Sometimes, as my daughter so graciously played the part in the beginning there. So, but that's how it was back in the day. You probably remember. Somebody be on the phone and be on there and you'd have to go under and under all the time, playing limbo. And of course, there was always the party line. You pick up the phone and somebody else might be having a whole nother conversation. Then there was the call waiting where you had to push the button. Gosh, three-way calling. You could get somebody else on there. And of course, if you were get everybody on the same page, that is. And you can have a nice conversation with all your friends. And if you were lucky enough or had a little bit of extra money, you buy your own line, your private line, or your call in, and you could be on that for hours and type everything. But usually everybody gathered around this. It was all on the wall. And of course there was the old rotary phones. I remember my grandparents had a hanging on the wall. Some of you probably remember this, and it might have been on the desktop there. Not a desktop, or just somewhere it was flat. You pick it up. Anyway, you had to dial it. 3 or 6 or 7, whatever. And if you messed up during that phone call, you had to hang it up and dial it all over again. Wonderful. Of course, there was the even older phones. If you remember back in the day, you would just actually pick up the little thing. You might have seen this on an episode of Andy Griffith. Hey, Sarah, get me 229 or what, I don't know, just use an example. But the operator would be on the phone. And I know somebody who actually has a working one of those. He's a good friend of mine. Still has that phone. It works. But the old analog and the switchboard operator, you'd have to have the operator connect for you. But these were phones back in the 80s, and they also had the, came along about that time, was the little caricature, if I'm saying that correctly, phones where you had your favorite, I think back in the day, was either your superheroes, your Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, or even your Looney Tunes characters, Bugs Bunny. I think I had a Tasmanian Devil, and, there was girls that had the Tweety Birds, and then there was the Yosemite. There might have been a Yosemite. I'm not sure, or Daffy Duck. But all those phones, there was caricature, or however you want to say it. But I remember those phones too, and having one of those. But about the same time these phones came out, there was also, a lot of people don't remember those, the pay phones, the phone booths. That had the actual phone book in it. Yes, there was a phone book back then. It might have been that thick. If somebody hasn't ripped it out of the phone booth. But the white pages were for residents, and the yellow pages were for businesses. Yeah, somebody was like, some of you out there, your kids are probably like, what was a phone booth? Yeah, but you had, phone booths. And speaking of phone booths, some of you may remember this. You actually had collect calling. Another good friend of mine said he and his girlfriend, if her girlfriend had to go out of town or travel somewhere for a meeting or conference, she would actually call him collect and say, and they had a code word or phrase and said, hey, this is so-and-so, and the operator would say, hey, there's a collect call from the code name or whatever the phrase they had. Do you accept? But during that code name phrase, and she'd say real quick, Hey, I made it. I'm here safely. Love you. Bye. Click. That was it. And he would not accept the call. So, but you had to do that. The little workarounds. But collect call, and basically, somebody would call you and say, "Hey, this is so and so calling, charging you. Do you accept? You know, do you accept the calls?" And you know, a lot of times you did. Because, but back then, man, on these phones, the landlines. Yes, landlines were pretty much the only thing you had back then. Collect talk, but long distance was, man, it was outrageous. It was probably, I don't know, 30 cents a minute. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. And, oh gosh, there was, you had to collect calling, but you had phone cards, prepaid phone cards, so you had so many minutes. This is long before cell phones, people. So that's the whole point of this video, is reminiscing about the old phone technology and how far we've come. But anyway, you had those phone booths that find about on any street corner, and you had to put in coins unless you did a collect call. But you know, I think it might have been 25 cents a minute. I can't remember, quarters. If you had the prepaid phone card, I think you could put in the number, which was fine. But then along came, after we moved from this one with the long cord, cordless phones. You had the same phone, but without the cord, and it had an antenna that stuck out. I'll see if I can put up an image. A lot of times you lost it. You sat on the antenna, you bent it, broke it, or just mashing in it all the time, you bend it. I might have been one of those people. Might have done it several times. Sat on it, but mainly it was just you get mad and throw it. Yeah, things happen. And then you had the pagers. People feel, if you want to feel important, you could, a lawyer or somebody, or doctor, drug dealer, usually the case, or just somebody had them. You could type in the code just to mess with your friends. But pagers came on. You kept them on your hip. Had a little. I'll see if I can throw a photo of that up here as well. And you'd put a little code in it, or 911, call me back right away, and you'd have to go find a payphone. Or unless you're at home, pick up the phone and call that person. You could always get a hold of them. And then about that time along came the first cellular phone. Bag phone. Big bag. Probably that wide. It was portable. Wear it like a purse, but it actually had a cord on it. And attached to the box that it came in. So, but you're talking about some serious money then if you had a cell phone and actually use it when they first came out. You know, you thought long distance was bad. I forget how much it was a charge for using that. I can't remember. It was pretty steep. Well, first of all, even if you could afford the bag phone, and then you know, afford to make the calls on it. I remember a buddy of mine at that time in high school, he had one, and had it in his car, but went to a football game, and just to show everybody, sitting in the stands making a phone call. Yeah, that might have been, but because they also had them in the car too. The first cell phones that were mounted in the car. If you're lucky enough and fortunate enough or wealthy enough to have one of those, you know, you could have it in the car as well. And you didn't need the pagers anymore. But at home we still had the old cordless phones, and you had an answering machine. Yes. I think some of the first ones were the little cassette, and you had the little rewind button, fast forward, you know. No, I'm not going to do that again. But you could rewind it, play your messages. You could set up all things. So if you missed a call, if you had call forwarding to that phone, and you could go to the answer machine, excuse me, and then call in and get your voicemails. Interesting how long, you know, all the technologies, but yes. And then you went to the digital answer machine where everything was digitally stored on there. But you could come home and see all the messages and all the delete from the telemarketers calling you to, hey, try to sell you something. But yeah, phone booths, phone cards, pagers. Gosh, we've come a long way. The cordless phones, and then the cordless phones went away from the antenna on top of them to actually, and some of the people still have those today. You know, you'd set up one little base and you have 3 of them and just cordless phone. Most people have done away with the landline because it's rather very expensive to keep those today. Most people just have cell phones. And when the first cell phone came out, I remember, well, anyway, the bag phone was the first, but then you went to the flip phone. And I had the Motorola, a StarTAC flip phone, and had a little bitty flimsy antenna you could flip out and use that to record with. I mean, not record with, excuse me, but to pick up good reception. You pull it out, and a lot of times that broke. But first little flip phone. I'm sorry. Wow, sorry about that. It's rather warm up here, and I had the fan blowing up, but it was blowing all the attic dust up here, and it just couldn't hardly talk. So much dust up here. Sorry about that. As far as flip phone. Oops. The flip phones, yeah. So I had the Motorola StarTAC. I think that's where I left off. Little flimsy little antenna you had to pull out. But during that time, the company here, I guess in the south of the Carolina, was because there was a walkie-talkie feature with the phones. It was Nextel. I don't know if anybody remembers those, because I think back in the day it was maybe AT&T had the phones, or I can't remember different companies, but I do remember Nextel because they had the walkie-talkie feature. Instead of the text messaging or talk, you could actually, use it as a walkie-talkie feature. And the service was okay, but it wasn't that reliable at times, especially if you got out of your area. But the technology has gotten a whole lot better because there's more towers. But obviously that technology, I don't even know if it's still around. It might be. I'm not sure. I don't use it, so. I think that's kind of it. There's so many stories on people. I'm sure people have about how to go from, these old phones, which is the only one really I had around. There, hold that for me, buddy. Thank you. To go from that to the cordless phones that had the antenna, then actually did away with the antenna, because you had, that was the receiver was the base, and the phone was the tram. To go to smartphones, something like this. It's incredible, but just a lot of good memories with the old phones, especially with the cord, playing limbo, and especially having the old rotary phone at my grandparents' house, because you had to, if you messed up, dialing number, you had to hang up, hang up, push the receiver down, hang up, start all over. And you had the cord. So if you messed up and you had the cord to play limbo, to go from that to cordless phones, walk around, you can go wherever you want to now. And just to see how it's changed over the years between, there's no more phone booths. I don't even know if anybody gets a phone book anymore. They might just give it to you for free. You go from, depending on where you live, real thick or thin in a small town, to they don't exist anymore, and landlines, and people are like, what are that? But the phone booths are gone, because everybody has a cell phone pretty much. And to see when the first generation of cell phones came out, I remember the first time I saw it was in an old BMW. It was in the first cell phone that was mounted in the car that was supposed to be mobile, was actually in the armrest or the console. And it might have gone through the system. I believe it did. I'm not 100% sure. To go from that to where we are now, and just pagers, or that was just, it was so funny. But the old and the answer machines, now everybody has voicemail, but answer machines actually had a device that plugged into the phone that recorded. You could leave your personal message, and somebody could leave you a message. You can come home, you'd have, especially if you didn't call them back, you got 10 voicemails, and maybe 4 of them were telemarketers or people calling trying to sell you something. To having it all on one device is just, it's crazy. And having all that going probably through your ear, through your head and your brain, and kill a bunch of brain cells, and with 5G, who knows? But anyway, but some good memories with old phone technology. And I remember one little quick story. Answer machines or any other phone accessories, or you could go down to your local, maybe another video sometime, another thing that has gone by the wayside and gone by, was a Radio Shack store. You could go into a Radio Shack store and you could buy certain parts, or you just buy an answer machine, something simple, but just different jacks. You make connections, especially because if you had your phone cord, you actually had to plug also another part into the wall where your phone line actually came in. So yeah, you don't have those anymore, but if you live in an older house like I do, you could probably still see remnants of the jack by the baseboard where you plug it in. And I know some of these younger generation people are just mind blown. What's collect calling? A jack you had to have in your wall? What? Answer machine, flip phones and pagers and phone booth. What is that? Yeah, you'd have a public phone booth on the side of the street, downtown, or local, or convenience stores. I remember they were outside convenience stores, or your local market there. A lot of shady things went on there. A lot of times they came in handy, especially if you broke down, because back then, buddy, you either had to find a payphone to walk to if you broke down, unfortunately, and call somebody or call a tow truck. So a lot has changed compared to old phone technology, with especially these now, with everything on it, the internet, right there at your fingertips, to phones, to your voicemail, all your contacts. No more having a phone book, because they're all in the phone. And of course the lovely spam calls that we get every day, because somebody, whoever your service is, has sold your phone number. Great, isn't it? Because back in the day, if you had the phone book, if you could afford it, you could actually get an unlisted number or a private number, and it wouldn't be in the phone book. So then you had to, if you had a crush on a girl, or if you're a girl and had a crush on a guy, you had to figure out, either look in the phone book and figure out what it is. And if it wasn't in there, you had to figure out from your friends how to get their number. Usually write on a piece of paper and fold it up and pass it in class. You couldn't just share it. You actually had to communicate, figure it out, go get that phone number. Because, oh yeah, if there was a girl you wanted to ask out, or if you're a girl and you wanted to ask a guy out, or for whatever, you wanted to ask that person out, yeah, you had to go do some information, or digging for information to find out to get the phone number, because it wasn't like you can today where you can search. You actually had to go figure it out, especially if they had a private or an unlisted number. And another gone by the wayside, phone book. I don't have any more. Anymore. So hope I took you back some old phones, and there's probably some more stories, and I'll throw in some photos in a video, because a lot of these are probably in museums now. And if you have one, that is great. I would love to see if you still have some of these phones, even if they're working. If you rode a phone with your grandparents still, go to your grandparents' house and see if they have any of these phones. And I'd love to hear about them in the comments, or submit photos. I'd love to hear. It's some other stories too, about phone technology and how far we've come, and just reminiscing of the good old days of a lot less stressful times. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I hope it took you back, and be sure to like and subscribe, hit the thumbs up button. I would greatly appreciate it. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on the next episode. Take care.